Hi all folks, this is Max from GalaxyNote.com. So today I'm going to show you, I know there's a lot of things with the EMMC bug, the hard brick, but since I've had my Note since it came out, and I've flashed like hundreds of ROMs, I've had zero hard bricks. So here's how to avoid it. Whenever you install a ROM, you can use a safe kernel. There's a BIS kernel, which is a gingerbread kernel I use every time I install a ROM now after those news. So this is my recommendation. Whether you're installing gingerbread ROMs, ICS ROMs, just flash a BIS kernel, reboot into recovery, and install the ROM. Or you know, it's safe. You know, just in my experience, and that's one of the first times when people started breaking their phones. You know, that was the solution. Use a BIS kernel. There's some other kernels, but I'm just gonna stick with the BIS because it's tested over time, and I always just have the zip file in my SD card, so I can always flash it. So this is what I do when I install a new ROM. This is Annie ROM. Is it? It's called the Annie Droid ROM. So I'm gonna install actually the latest Rocket ROM version 7, which everybody's been raving about. So what I do is I'll boot into Clockwork My Recovery. Remember, all custom ROMs, like 99% of them, come with their own Clockwork My Recovery, but I don't recommend using them. So here's how to do it. Hit volume up. You might have to take the USB cable off for a second. Hit volume up, center button, and the power button. Hold it down until you boot into recovery. Or if you have a ROM like this, you can actually do it with the power button, but I'll just show you so this works on everybody's Galaxy Note GT-N7000. With the AT&T Galaxy Note, you don't have that problem because it uses a different CPU, and no bricking there. But there you go. So I'm in Clockwork My Recovery that came with this ROM, and the way Galaxy Note works is that the Clockwork My Recovery is part of the ROM because it's part of the kernel. So whenever you flash a new ROM, it's going to come with its own Clockwork My Recovery. The AT&T version doesn't. It has a separate recovery partition, just in case you guys are wondering. So here's what I do just to be safe. I will go and go to install zip from SD card, and it's usually the power button or the center button, or you can use both. And I'll go to choose zip from SD card, and then I'll go to my download folder, and I always use the same BIS Note kernel blah blah .zip. This is a safe kernel. Even though it will not run with ICS kernels, you can install this kernel, which will install the recovery, its own recovery, that's supposed to be safe. So let me go ahead and install it. Say yes, and once that's installed, I'm simply gonna go back, and then I'm going to go to advanced, and I'm going to reboot recovery, and this will give you the recovery off the BIS kernel, which is now there. Now my phone's actually not functional right now, so don't do this unless you're going to install a new ROM or restore a ROM. Also, for restoring, this is probably the safest method. For backing up, it doesn't matter because you're not writing it to it, you're backing up, so you can use Clockwork My Recovery. So now what I'm going to do, I'm in this BIS, touch whatever, and I'm gonna install my new ROM. Actually, you know what? Let's do. You can do a wipe data factory reset. If you're coming from the same ROM, you don't have to usually. If you're just upgrading, but if you're going to a different ROM, that's recommended. And I'm gonna do the regular install. Install from zip. Choose zip from an SD card, and then I'm gonna go down to my download folder where I copy the ROM over. And there we go, Rocket ROM V7. Everybody's telling me this is great ROM, so I'm gonna yes, and make sure you watch it. So but with this method, you will not brick your Galaxy Note. So just use this method to install ICS gingerbread, so you don't have to worry about it. And so this is an updated instruction. Just people just paranoid about bricking or something, but it's not gonna really happen unless you install a leaked ICS kernel, and most of those have been removed from the web, and just don't install those. And most of the custom ROMs, they're fine, but still use this method just in case. and you'll be fine. And don't flash ROMs from Galaxy S2 or other phones to your GT-N7000. Only install ROMs GT-N7000. If it says for GT-N7000, you're all good to go. I've had a lot of people, they have like a Galaxy S2 T-Mobile, they'll flash the i90-100 ROM on it and brick it, or something like that. So just just watch out for the model number and you should be all good to go. Here we go. So it's installing reboot, and I should be all good to go. And also, a lot of the ICS ROMs, if you don't use a certain kernel when you install it, you will end up in this weird boot loop, and I've done that like all day long. So it's also a great way to install ROMs, fail-proof, noob-proof, and I highly recommend this method. You can try some of the other kernels on XDA, but I don't really recommend them because they weren't tested over time. This one, it has. I've used it. Has it been almost like a year? And no bricks. No bricks so far. And there we go. And I'll be back when this is done. So that's done. I've installed. When you install a new ROM, it's gonna actually overwrite the Abyss kernel with its own kernel. So go back and reboot system now, and boom, you should have the ROM running and good to go. If you have any problems with force closes, you can boot back into Clockwork My Recovery, wipe cache. Do not wipe data. Don't use the one that comes with it, and do a factory reset. That's one of the things you gotta watch out for, just in case, and as long as you stay on Abyss kernel, it should be all good. And no one actually told me they've actually bricked the phone with the Abyss kernel. I've seen some bricks, but those were people who were just doing something on their own and flashing this and flashing that. But all the ROMs that I posted on my site have been tested. As long as you use Abyss kernel, you're not gonna brick your Galaxy Note. I have video proof, my phone. Anyway, I'll be back when this is completely booted. So it's been about 2 minutes, and once the screen changes to installing applications, you are probably good to go, and your ROM's running fine. So there we go, and I'll be back. So there we go. I've got it booted up. No problems installing a new ROM, and safely installed a new ROM. Anyway, I highly recommend using Abyss. Whether for those of you who root it using the ICS method, just use cwm.zip file to boot into the Clockwork My Recovery, flash Abyss kernel, and do exactly like I show you here, and you should be all good to go. Anyway, I know a lot of you were telling me I should post something about the EMMC bug, so here it is, and here's how to avoid it when you're installing a new ROM. And it can really only happen when you wipe using the wrong version of Clockwork My Recovery. Anyway, I'm getting hungry. And thanks you guys for watching my video. If you like this video, don't forget to sign up for my email list at rootgalaxynote.com. I always have a link also above the comments section. You can sign up there. So that way we update you like once a week with ROM of the week. It's been more like once every 2 weeks, but I'm trying to get back into it. I will try my best. And it's also a great way for you to contact me if you have trouble with your phone. And I'll know which phone you have when you email through my emailing list. Otherwise, we'll go back and forth. Like, what phone do you have? So it'll help me out greatly. Anyway, thanks you guys. Stay high on Android, and we'll see you later. And don't be a hater.